All right. Are we on record? Are we on record, Kathy? Okay. Good evening. We call the City of Lincoln City City Council meeting to order. It's Monday, May 11th, 6 p.m. We please have roll call.
Mayor Don Williams.
Here.
Councilor Jim Davis.
Here.
Councilor Chester Norikis.
Here.
Councilor Wes Ryan.
Here.
Councilor Roger Sprague.
Here.
Councilor Susan Walke. Here. And Councilor Kip Ward.
Here.
Please join me in rising for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And before we get going into the business of the evening, I do want to mention we have a little bit of sorrow tonight. We lost a friend and a colleague in David Moss. He passed away was on May 9th from an apparent heart attack. He was our the AmeriCorps employees, and for all of us that knew him briefly, a real kind, sharing man. So we don't have any information on a funeral or a remembrance service, but we will be issuing something about that on the website as soon as we get information. So just want to say we will miss David, and we thank him for being part of our lives. With that, we move on to business. Unfortunately, we're to the consent agenda. The consent calendar consists of items of a repeat or routine nature considered under a single action. A councilor may remove a consent agenda item for separate consideration upon request. We have a meeting of minutes for April 27th, the contract for the property purchase of Taft Elementary, and the intergovernmental agreement, Lincoln County Soil and Water Conservation District, Logan Creek Invasive Species Treatment. Any councilors wish to poll?
Pull number 2 and 3 from the agenda.
Right.
From the consent agenda.
All right. Then we have the minutes of the meeting for April 27th, 2015. I'm assuming everyone saw those. Need a motion to approve?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the meeting for April 27th, 2015. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I will abstain.
All right. And one abstention from Mr. Sprague. Thank you. And welcome back, by the way.
Thank you.
All right. So, Councilor Walke?
I was looking at the agreement on sale of real property. The numbering seems to be 12, page 7, an A and a 2.
I'm not there right now, but I will find it and correct it.
Then for the term, my understanding, it would expire after 7. They're not willing to.
Well, I'd ask also that this item be pulled, and frankly, it's because I have not heard back from the school board attorney. So what I was going to ask was permission to make, for the city manager and I to make minor changes to the agreement depending on what they come back with. It's on the agenda because we wanted to keep it moving forward. We wanted to get it closed by June so that we could apply for grants. The 7 years was our proposal. If you would like me to ask for more time, I'd entertain some direction.
What page you on there, Councilor Walke?
This is on the right of first refusal, which is an exhibit to the agreement.
Got it. Okay. Well, I'm seeing it. It must be in a different part that I didn't see.
It's
Shall be in substantial the form. Oh, Exhibit F. Okay, sorry.
page 33 of 58.
All right.
Essentially, I propose a 7-year term for the right of first refusal. If you'd like, we basically have the right of first refusal on the 2 parcels. I think they're A and B on the map. I didn't go with A and B. I went with parcel 1 is the parcel we're acquiring. Parcel 2 and parcel 3 are the ones that we're getting the right of first refusal on. One is the maintenance building, one is the bus parking area. So 7 years is what I proposed. If you want me to suggest more time, just tell me.
Seems to me I don't know why we would need a definite period unless they're asking for it.
I think the only concern is the giving them time to get the environmental situation, the no further action letter on the one parcel. That's really the only thing that we're holding back, and they need time to complete on.
Right, and I understand giving time, but I'm just saying, as I'm looking at this, it puts the onus on us. And I mean, 7 years is obviously a long time, but there's nothing on their side that says get this done, or there's nothing on our side that says we're not going to give up this right, no matter how long you dawdle. That's all it just seems like we're just for no good reason.
Councillor Walkie, is that your fear as well?
No, I have no issue with just removing that.
What would you suggest to the city attorney, Councillor Walkie?
I guess I had toyed with 15 years. I had just cut it in half. I thought if we were going to do something with the property, we would do it.
Do you see any reason to put a date on there? I mean, do we need it?
I believe you need some kind of date.
So you don't know?
It's a matter of what consideration are we offering and what are we getting back. And if we get an unlimited offer, then I'd expect you to be paying them some money for taking it off the market for everyone else, giving us that right.
Right.
So I think we are doing something for them. There is consideration. We're building some connections, but we're not doing that much more. So 15 would be reasonable, 10 would be
I
reasonable.
feel better with 10.
I can modify it to 15, and if the attorney comes back with something less, I know where my parameters are.
Council agree with that? 15 good? All right.
But I also have permission to make minor adjustments with agreement of the city manager to the agreement should they come back and need some changes.
Good.
Yes.
Okay. And then the other?
Do you want to make a motion on that one, or?
Sure. I need a motion then.
I would move that we approve the property purchase of Taft Elementary School property, allowing for minor alterations to the agreement as per city manager and city attorney.
With the adjustment to the right of first refusal for 15 years.
That also.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Do I need to just voice vote? Fine. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved. All right, then we have the number 3, the intergovernmental agreement.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I have a question about, first of all, this property is in the county, and secondly, do we have permission from the owner to even go onto their property? So why are we doing this kind of an agreement unless we have that permission ahead of time?
I had asked our engineer, Sam Chandler, to check on the property. He says that we are actually the owners of the property. If you look on the map that I put on your desk, the area that is in the red, that is the area which they will be working to eliminate the yellow flag.
Okay.
And it's 2 parcels, and those 2 parcels are owned by the city.
Okay, I thought that was in the county. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Your Honor, could I
Yes,
ask you to go back for a second? Technically, we're spending money in the, we're agreeing to spend money in the purchase contract. I'm wondering if we can get a roll call vote on that.
Well, I guess are we done? That was the only concern?
That was the only concern I had.
Yeah.
Because you asked to have it pulled.
Yeah.
I did it. I'm sorry.
Well, she had asked.
Yes.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
My only question, with the interagency agreement, whether or not Mr. Chandler's email was correct? Looks like there may be a little email address.
I can review that. We actually had something else that Mr. Twigg had sent some language to Public Works about the indemnity language in this intergovernmental agreement and how it was not correct. It was supposed to, this IGA has state indemnity language as opposed to city-county indemnity language. So we had an email to that effect, and the version in your packet did not get the language changed. So I have given the corrected version to the city recorder so that the indemnity language is correct. It has to deal with cities as opposed to state agencies. If I could ask for approval of that as well. And going back to my earlier point, since we're contracting to spend money on this item as well as the other item, if we can maybe get a roll call vote.
On both items.
On both items.
I have a question regarding this Conservation District contract, and that is, Mr. Chandler, I get the impression that they're going to conduct this species treatment program whether we pay them or not. Is that incorrect?
I understand it. It will not. They will conduct it, but not on our property. We're trying to piggyback on what they're already going to be doing.
I see. Thank you.
And I do think it's a valuable opportunity, because I have spoken to some different people who have been involved with this species of plant, and it is quite invasive, and it's really taking over a lot of areas. And so 2,000 seems a pretty reasonable amount to have that area cleaned up.
Mr. Mayor, it's listed on the state's B list for noxious weeds, which means it's an invasive but not yet widespread. But it is listed as a noxious weed, although it is a pretty flower.
It is. Okay, so we're still waiting for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I would move that we direct the city manager or his designee to sign the interagency agreement between LSWCD and the city. And for the benefit of the viewing public, LSWCD is the Lincoln Soil and Water Conservation District.
Your Honor, could I ask that we have an addition to that to correct the indemnity and the other typos?
I would move that we include that in, or I guess that's a separate motion.
Well, it's just a, does the motion include correcting the indemnity language?
Yes.
All right, so we have a motion.
Second.
Did I hear a second? Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? We need a roll call, please.
Sprague.
Yes.
Walke.
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Norikis.
Yes.
And Ryan.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And we need to go back on the Taft Elementary School vote on that original motion.
Yes.
I don't remember what the motion was because I made it, but I don't remember it.
I believe the motion was to approve the contract for acquisition of the Taft property with the correction that to the numbering, and also to reflect the accurate or $15,000 right of first refusal.
15-year.
With 15-year, and with authorization to the manager and the city attorney to make minor changes as necessary.
Good memory. That was the.
Okay.
I'll make it again.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second, and I'm not going to try to repeat it. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. No, we got to have a voice on that one?
Voice.
Okay, well, that's money. I'm sorry. Roll call, please.
Ryan.
Yes.
Sprague.
Yes.
Walke.
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
And Norikis.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. All right, council deliberations, none. Comments from citizens present on agenda and non-agenda items. This is an opportunity for members of the audience to bring to the council's attention any item not listed on the agenda for public hearing or public comment. Comments are limited to 5 minutes per citizen, and the city recorder will use the light system. Speakers may not yield their times to others, and as a general rule, this is not a time for exchange of questions. At the conclusion of this agenda item, a councilor may discuss or raise questions regarding an item presented by a citizen. The mayor has the authority to reduce the time allowed for the comment in accordance with the number of persons present and signed up to speak. I see none, but are there any who wish to come up and speak? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. We have presentations. Oregon Liquor Control Commission to discuss the licensing process and council options. Sarah Morgan.
They told me you'll turn the screen on for me over there. Good evening. For the record, my name is Sarah Morgan. I'm with the Oregon Liquor Control Commission. I have been asked to go around to the various cities and counties throughout the state and try to help people get a better understanding of what the government's role is in liquor license process, both at initial licensing and at renewals. I put together a little bit of a PowerPoint here. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me either when you have them or at the end. Told me if I hit the button it would go, but
Sounds like a pitch pipe.
Yeah, it did.
okay. So I'm going to cover the basics of OLCC numbers and information, where our offices are and such.
Sarah, may I ask, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but is this going to strictly relate to liquor, or will this also apply to the marijuana?
This evening is only about liquor.
All right, thank you.
We'll talk about the initial license application, and that includes new applications and change of ownerships. We'll talk about the renewal process, which you guys are currently, should be in your renewal process right now. Your decisions are due back to us by June 4th. Your role in both of those application processes. What are the valid denial bases? Time, place, and manner ordinances. And then any questions that you might have. OLCC receives about 1,650 applications for new outlets and change of ownerships every single year, and that number continues to increase each year. And we do about 13,500 renewal applications every year. All initial liquor license applications are processed here in your local office. The local office for Lincoln City is out of Newport. Your inspector for that region is Frank Matsko. If you have any questions or concerns with any business at any time, he would be your contact for that. We have offices throughout the state. Our headquarters are in the Portland area, and we have a field office in Salem, Eugene, Medford, and Bend, with satellite offices located throughout each region. The legislature put a statute in place that allows us to let local governments weigh in on liquor license applications. And that's 471166. There's a summary of that statute on the purple sheet in your packets. We wrote rules at our agency, and we require, every applicant, no matter what license type they're applying for, to go to their local government and get a recommendation when they are initially being licensed. At initial licensing, the city has to weigh in within 45 days from receiving that application. You have three options at initial licensing. You can submit a favorable recommendation, an unfavorable recommendation, or if you believe that you need more time to process the application, as long as you're considering a valid denial basis, you can request an additional 45 days, so you have a total of 90 days to process that application. There is a letter, a sample here that I'm happy to share if you ever need to ask for additional time so that you don't have to recreate what you're sending to us. You will receive an approval letter back from our office. We process those as soon as we receive them so that you know what your new deadline date is, so it never runs up against your time clock. In the rule that we wrote about that statute, it also calls out in there that if we don't hear something from you within those first 45 days, we treat the application as though you weighed in favorably. And for the purposes of this rule, an unfavorable recommendation is either a recommendation to deny somebody's liquor license, or it could be a favorable recommendation but requesting to put restrictions on the license for some concerns that you may have about the way the business has previously operated or about the applicant themselves. Please keep in mind when a person is first applying for a liquor license, some applicants qualify to receive a 90-day authority to operate while we're doing our investigation. We do a preliminary background check on them, and as long as the applicants and the premises that they're applying for pass that first initial background, they can get a temporary authority to operate if it's a change of ownership application. So if there's no new impact to the neighborhood because a similar type business is going in with a similar type license, then we could give them that 90-day authority. If it's a brand new outlet, meaning it's never had a license, or it's a different type of license, or it's been vacant for more than 30 days without a license, then nobody qualifies for a 90-day authority except for an off-premises sales license. So that would be a convenience store, a grocery store, to-go sales. If the city believes that they have a denial basis when you first get an application and start looking at it, and this might be more to the point of if the chief of police is looking at it and giving that criminal history background, letting us know as soon as possible so that we don't grant somebody a 90-day authority possibly. If there is a denial basis, we don't like to give somebody a 90-day authority and then turn around and deny them for that license. So if we're concerned that there might be a denial basis, please let us know as soon as possible.
Do you have a time frame on that?
As soon as you realize that it can happen. We can revoke a 90-day authority if it's given. So if something comes up after we've granted that, if there's concerns and it falls within the parameters, we can.
All right, thank you.
Renewal applications are all processed out of the Portland office. Because there's so many renewals each year, we split the state up into 4 quadrants. Lincoln City is in District 3, so your license year is always July through June. So your renewals will always come due probably about the first week of June. It changes with the calendar each year, but it's around the first week of June. At renewal, the biggest difference is we do not require every licensee to come back before the local government. We only require the 4 license types that have the most impact on the community, and those are the distilled spirits, beer and wine on-premises consumption locations, the beer and wine on-premises consumption locations, the to-go sales, and then brewery public houses. So most of the manufacturer and wholesalers do not have to come back before the government to have a recommendation, but if you were to have concerns about any of those types of licensees, you are welcome to give us a recommendation on those at the same time. We do require that they all do a renewal process, they just don't have to come here as part of that process.
May I ask a question? We have a brewery here in town, the Rusty Truck, and now they're a manufacturer, and then they're also a distributor, and they're also a retail.
They're a brewery public house, I believe. Is that correct? Correct?
I'm just asking, is there a delineation in how that would come to us?
There is. A brewery public house is considered a manufacturer, so they can brew beer and they can also distribute their product, but we treat them as a retailer for the purposes of licensing, so they are required to come back before before the council.
Great, thank you.
The other difference for renewals, other than just being the 4 license types, is that you have 60 days from the date that you receive the list from us of the licensees that will be submitting their recommendation to the city. Please remember that you have only until June 4th, where the licensees have until June 20th to process their renewal. So I'm trying to make sure that people understand they need to make their recommendation whether or not the licensee submits their renewal to you. Act as though they will be renewing their application. If you want to make a recommendation, don't wait for their piece of paper to do that. Go ahead and act on that when you receive the letter from the agency, from OLCC.
And I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt, just so I'm following
That's
the
fine.
process. I want to be real clear. So someone would turn in an application to you, it would go to the Portland office, and then it's forwarded to our city recorder?
So at renewals, we send out about 80 days before the end of the license year, and so it was in April this year. We sent all licensees their renewal sheet and told them to come to the city, those that need to.
Okay.
We sent the city a list of all the licensees that should be coming to you for renewal.
Okay.
So they come into the city, they pay their renewal fee to you. I believe you charge a $35.
That goes to finance? They pay it there? Okay, pay to finance.
And then every city is different, so I'm not sure, but typically they'll send those renewals over to the police department. They run their background check, or if they have any concerns, and then they bring it to city council, and I believe you take a vote on whether you want to recommend granting those or denying those.
I'm just trying to keep that speed of process in mind and how it gets to us quickly, and we don't want to mess someone up because we don't have a flow.
The city actually has quite a process that we go through. I work with finance to make sure that they've paid their renewal fee for the city first, and then we send it over to the police department to see if they have any issues with it, and it's scheduled to go on the next agenda, the entire list
Okay.
for council
Did you have something to
approval.
add, Mr. City Attorney? No? Okay. All right, thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. Again, at renewals, you have those same three options, though. So if there was somebody in question, if you had a licensee who you believed was maybe not acting the way you would like to see them behaving, they're having violations, the police are being called frequently to the location, you can always ask for a time extension on that particular renewal. Something to keep in mind is that licensee gets to continue operating on what we call a conditional letter of authority. The entire time we're conducting our investigation, they get hearings rights, and then it goes before an administrative law judge. So it is likely that they would continue operating for up to a year, depending on people's, court schedules. So it's really important that you let our agency know if you're having problems throughout the year with somebody, if the police are being called, that they're really including OLCC as early as possible to participate in that problem solving with that licensee.
Okay, so we issue our concerns. You do the investigation, they go through all those steps. Our end is done at that point until you come back with a recommendation?
It is for renewals, so we would write the report, we would present it to our commissioners if we wanted to still grant that license to them, if we felt that there was restrictions we could put on the license to overcome the denial basis, or if we didn't believe that there really was a denial basis. We write that report. When the local government has come in with an unfavorable, those decisions have to be funneled through our commissioners. So they hear that case. Somebody from the local government could come and speak to the commissioners. You could just write in. You can call in. The applicant or the licensee also has that same opportunity. And then it's the commissioners who make that decision.
And they would not come back to us again at that point?
They would not.
All right.
So just as a recap for the renewal, about 80 days before the end of the license year, all licensees get their renewal. You get the letter mailed out the exact same day telling you who should be coming to you. We need to make sure that the address and the fees listed on that renewal are accurate so that we get lots of calls during renewal period so we can direct people to the right location. And then the deadline date for your decision is listed in that letter, and that is 60 days out, so you should have at least a couple of city council meetings where you could hear those renewals.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
But if I recall the process, well, when it comes to us for action, it almost always has either a deny or a recommendation from the chief of police. Am I not correct?
Yes, he reviews
Gone
it.
through that process before we ever see it.
You've delegated to the chief of police to make the
Right.
recommendation, and there is an appeal process to you for a hearing.
Right.
And it's a very abbreviated process because of the time frames. And again, you're only making a recommendation to the agency, so.
But we are still free to add on to that if we have information.
Yes, but again, we adopted an ordinance back in 2013 to focus us on the proper basis for denial, the 166
It
criteria.
would be pretty extraordinary if we change what the chief of police offered us, right?
Yeah, you're kind of constrained by statute and administrative rules, so
That's
we
fine.
stick with it.
Just want to get it clear.
So the valid denial bases, there are more denial bases than what are listed on the orange sheet that you have in front of you. Those are the very common denial bases that we see, and some of those that I listed there are things that you might know about here as a local community member that we might not be aware of. So some of those are the things that you might bring to our attention that we wouldn't find on our own when we do a background check. An applicant that has a habit of using alcohol or drugs to excess, this is separate than those that have convictions for alcohol or drug-related charges. This is if you have somebody who's applying for a liquor license and they have several police arrests, and in those arrests, maybe it was for assault or domestic violence or something like that, where the officers have noted that the person was under the influence of alcohol, it is possible that we can use those as incidents of excessive use of alcohol. So those can be helpful, and those are things you might know about or your police chief might know about, where we wouldn't necessarily pull every police report on somebody. If an applicant makes a false statement, we just ask that that's something that would be relevant to a denial basis. The fact that there might be misinformation on their application does not always constitute a false statement to us. If an applicant has demonstrated poor moral character, these are people who might be arrested and have quite a conviction history, but they're misdemeanors and violations, typically things that are not of a nature that we would be able to deny for, but they have a lengthy history of those that we show just general disregard for the law. We had a gentleman who had 17 arrests and he had 17 failure to appears, and we felt like that was just general disregard for the law, and he was denied his liquor license for that. If an applicant has a poor record of compliance, we do check into that. We don't let somebody be a problem in another city, lose their license there, and then come to Lincoln City and become a problem for you. So their past does follow them when it's their liquor business. Also, if the applicant has been convicted of a local, state, or federal law that are related to the fitness of holding a liquor license, some of the things we consider for driving records are driving without insurance or driving without a license, because you need both a license and insurance to run a liquor business. So we have been able to correlate that driving records sometimes do transfer over to a liquor license. For the local convictions, you have a packet or a piece of paper in your packet there on time, place, and manner ordinances, and I don't know if Lincoln City has one for liquor-related businesses. Right at the moment, we're seeing many cities trying to develop them for marijuana, and so if you don't have one for liquor licensed businesses, it's the red handout, I apologize. If you don't have one in place yet for liquor, it might be something to consider. It allows us to help you hold businesses in your community and make them behave better. If they violate a local law and you're able to convict them of a local law, we can sometimes go and cite them for allowing illegal activity at their business. Noise violations are one of those things. They took noise away from us. We don't have the ability to write a ticket anymore for noise, but we can write somebody a ticket for allowing illegal activity if the city has an ordinance that they have violated. The last denial basis that's common, and we see this more often at renewals than we do at initial licensing, but if the business has had several violations, they can get a charge that we call history of serious and persistent problems. And so often we are able to put restrictions on the business if that's something that they've been found in violation of, and that sometimes can place hourly restrictions, drink limits, the amount of alcohol per drink, maybe require security to be at those businesses during certain hours or certain nights if you're seeing an influx of problems at certain times. Things that we cannot consider are lack of parking, increased noise in a neighborhood, there's already enough bars on that street or area of town, the type of entertainment that somebody's offering, zoning issues, paying local taxes or property taxes, those are not things that we have any jurisdiction over, so we can't consider those.
Ms. Morgan, before you leave that, looking at this orange sheet, the sixth bullet is one of the considerations we can use to refuse or restrict a license. And it says, the sixth bullet, the first check mark for consideration to refuse a license, obtrusive or excessive noise.
That's under the bullet of history of serious and persistent problems. So if a place gets multiple police calls for excessive noise, offensive littering, those types of things, and there are multiple police reports at any given location in a short period of time, we can look at charging them with history of serious and persistent problems.
The last paragraph, OLCC is not able to consider increased noise, is the third bullet from the bottom.
Right, so the difference is you can't say, we don't want another bar here because the neighbors think it's going to make the neighborhood too noisy. But if a bar is allowing its patrons, or it's having a band and it's exceeding your noise limits, and they get tickets written to them, or police are showing up, those are things that we can put together for the history of serious and persistent problems,
Okay.
but noise by itself is not a reason to say that we won't grant a license.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. The bottom piece there where it says failing to pay taxes or fees, the one fee that we can hold up somebody's license for is if they don't come and pay you the renewal fee. So if you let us know that after the license year is over, we send a list and say, these are the people that told us they paid you. If there's somebody on that list that doesn't, please let our agency know, because we will make them show proof that they've come back and paid you and done what they said on their application, that they marked yes and that they really do pay you, before we'll grant them a license the next year. So it is the one thing that we can help you with there for fees. Time, place, and manner development. Does the city have a TPM for liquor licensed establishments?
I do not recall. We have a
I don't-
general one.
You're asking, we have time, place, and manner restrictions?
For liquor licensed businesses. 471164 is the statute. It's on the purple handout.
I don't know, other than zoning, I mean, we have zoning restrictions and where they can be located.
Okay.
We have,
And do you have code enforcement for that? So if a business was in a place, so if a business is in a place that's not zoned for business and they apply for a liquor license,
yeah, I think the planning department would catch that through the process.
and we would have to grant them a license because zoning's not something we can care about. So if the city goes out and writes them a ticket for operating in a place where they can't, then we can use that against them. So I just want to make sure that people are aware that the fact that they're not zoned appropriately it's not sufficient to deny them a liquor license.
It's not a criterion for you, but if we do an enforcement action, it is something you can take
Then
into
it's
account.
something we can take care of. Okay.
Just to be clear, Your Honor, we do have time, place, and manner restrictions. We have a Chapter 928, which governs liquor and also marijuana, which will have to be amended before July 1st. And we also have things like park regulations that say no alcohol is prohibited in parks except for a special event permit or whatever.
And that would satisfy your agency?
If tickets were written and they were found in violation, but the park wouldn't
Right.
matter because it's not a liquor license business, so it has to be specific to the liquor license business. I have more information on time, place, manner. If you would like me to send it
I
to the
would.
city, I would be happy to do that.
The council?
Okay.
Actually, if I could ask, we have an allowance in our parks regulations for you can have alcohol in the park if it's through a valid concession agreement. And usually that's an existing licensed establishment will want to have a temporary permit for,
So like a temporary use of an annual license at the park.
yes. Is that something that you would you normally do? We put it in the ordinance, we haven't used it yet, so.
Yes, if somebody wanted to apply for a special event license, they would have to come to the city also to have the city weigh in on that. And if you give a favorable recommendation and we sign it and then give it to them, then they could use the alcohol in the park lawfully. That would be fine. But if they were found in violation at that park, then yes, we could use that against them because it's a business that's selling alcohol improperly.
Okay, thank you.
Does that cover things like the October Brew Fest when you have something on, say, at the Cultural Center? Does that?
Well, that particular regulation is for park property, not for the cultural center, which is
That'll be
in
a private.
general commercial zone.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
So that's okay. And I do have, like I said, a time, place, manner ordinance from other cities that have used them now for 10 years and had really good success with them. So if there are problem places in a town, it can be very helpful. I'm not sure if Lincoln City has any problem locations, but if you do, it might be something
It'd be interesting to hear.
to look at. Okay, I can send that on. This next slide here just talks about some of the activities at bars and establishments that you can control with a time, place, manner for liquor licensed establishments. And then it's through that ordinance that you decide or determine how many violation or how many complaints equal a violation, and then what your abatement plan is from that violation. And the example for that is, you know, the law allows you to sell alcohol till 2:30 in the morning, and we have some bars in Portland where they misbehave, they get put on an abatement plan, and the city basically puts city restrictions on them to pull them back into compliance, even though our law, state law, says that they can sell alcohol till 2 in the morning. The city might impose that they have to close at 10 o'clock for the next 3 weeks to try to get the problems to subside there. And if they violate that, then there's a violation that's actually given to them. If they behave themselves, then the city lifts their abatement plan and they go back to operating the way the state law allows. So it can really help if you have any problem places. And then the last slide that was on here is about fees, and I believe the city of Lincoln City already charges the max fees allowed by the state of Oregon. So I think I am done unless you have questions for me about the process.
I think you did a great job presenting this. It's very fascinating.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Does that mean then that we can override a state OLCC license? In other words, make it more restrictive as a matter of time that you can operate?
I believe if you put a TPM ordinance in place and you go through the proper channels to do that legally, you can have more restrictive rules for the city than we have at the state level.
Huh?
And I think that that's where the zoning codes come in, and the noise ordinance, and the offensive littering, and the egress and access if you've got patrons blocking streets. And so yes, I think you can have more restrictive rules.
As long as we pass one or two of those ordinances?
Yes, and enforce them.
Okay.
Because we can't do anything to enforce it for allowing illegal activity until the city of Lincoln City enforces it.
I see.
So,
Okay.
and I'll send that information along. I can send it to Kathy and she can.
Discussion afterwards once we receive that.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And then we have a presentation by Pacific West Ambulance Service to discuss EMS Week. Do you need the screen? No? Okay.
Good evening, Mayor Williams and City Council members.
Good evening. Welcome.
I'm Brady Templeton. I'm a paramedic and operations supervisor with Pacific West Ambulance, and this is Joe Shellhart. He's an EMT and does our marketing and customer relations.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Can we have our people speak right into the mic?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
it's very directional, and that's not being heard by the people at home or whatever.
I apologize.
Thank you, Counselor.
So, Pacific West has been providing ambulance service in Oregon since 1987. I'm personally honored that you've trusted Pacific West Ambulance to serve your community and look forward to our continued relationships. Thank you for your opportunity to appear before you today. EMS Week is May 17th through the 23rd. This proclamation before the City of Lincoln City Council is important to the many teams of EMS workers in Lincoln County. As providers of pre-hospital care in Lincoln County, Pacific West EMS personnel are part of a team of professionals providing emergency health care to your citizens. We feel honored that your community has entrusted us with the emergency care of your community and strive every day to continue to earn that trust. Because of your commitment to support EMS in Lincoln County, enjoys one of the finest emergency healthcare systems in Oregon. Our EMS partners include fire personnel, police, and emergency room staff. Our goal is to meet the emergency needs of your community in a compassionate, timely, and professional manner. On behalf of all EMS workers in Lincoln County, thank you for your proclamation and your continued support of emergency medical workers.
For the record, Joe Shellhart. We'd like to take this time to invite you all. This Sunday we're having our EMS barbecue. It starts at noon. It goes till 4 p.m. You're more than welcome to come out. If you have families, we encourage you to come out, meet your local EMS providers. We service all of Lincoln County, but a lot of our medics live here in Lincoln City.
Joe, where will that be at?
It's at our Lincoln City quarters.
You have an address?
I do have an address. It's 2801 Northeast 22nd Street. It's right by the hospital.
Yeah.
It's a little hidden area right there. And then the other thing, it's between May and June, we're also doing our marketing on our lifeguard campaign. I don't know if you know anything about that. It's a $59 membership, and what it is, it covers you for any emergency you might need an ambulance for. So instead of spending upwards to $1,500 for an ambulance to take you 2.2 miles to the hospital, it covers that charge for $59, and it covers you, your household, for things like that. And if the doctors here in the city say you need to go to Portland or somewhere else, we cover that cost as well. So, and that was just $59. But
Separate from Life Flight, right, or the helicopter services? And
correct.
Okay.
Yeah. The thing about with Life Flight, there's now 3 rotary wings in the area.
Yep.
Life Flight, Lifeguard out of Tillamook, and then Reach out of Corvallis.
I apologize, I used a trade term, or trademark there, but it's the only one I know by.
Yeah. One thing with our lifeguard membership is we reciprocate with FireMed as well, which FireMed is utilized by a lot of the other services in the valley. So with the membership to lifeguard, I think covers 85% of Oregon.
Cover 85% of Oregon. So if you travel a lot, or it's very good. And all our sister agencies use it as well. We have places in Portland as well that cover basically the entire state.
Very
close to. But
and could you clarify again? I'm sorry, I had the 12 to 4. Is it Sunday, you said?
Yes, Sunday the 17th.
Sunday the 17th, okay.
Yeah.
At 2801 Northeast 22nd over by the hospital.
Yep.
And we'll have there'll be barbecue and lots of fun games for the families. And so, like, we'll have a giant Jenga that Joe and I have made, and a rock climbing wall, a hippity hop obstacle course. So lots of fun little games. It's a good event for the community to come and meet their EMS workers and celebrate EMS week.
Excellent. Does the chamber have that on their calendar?
I hope so now.
Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, we just like to spread the word. We all have different avenues where we get our information from, so.
Very true.
It sounds great.
All right. Well,
thank
you
you so
very
much. Appreciate it.
And we'd also like to present a plaque to you guys as well for your support of EMS.
Pacific West Ambulance recognizes the City Council of Lincoln City for your continued support of emergency medical services personnel, in the city of Lincoln City. National EMS Week, May 18th through 23rd, 2015. Thank you so much. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Here. All right. And we are at the Lincoln City Warming Shelter.
Mayor Williams, councilors, my name is Rich Gartrell. It's sort of a convoluted way, but I've been made the voluntary administrator trying to pull together a citywide Lincoln City warming shelter. But before I go on, Don, I thank you for the comment about Dave Moss. He was one of our founding members on the board, and he just volunteered on May 4th. He'd been involved prior to that, but he was the first one that, at the meeting that we held, came forth and said, "I'll serve on your board." And he felt that that was one of the reasons that brought him here to Lincoln City. Unfortunately, when I got the word this morning, it was like a shock. And a shock to my pastor and a shock to another colleague. Shock to all of us. Anyhow, the Lincoln City Warming Shelter, Inc. has been established in the state of Oregon as a emergency warming shelter for the homeless. Now, the homeless I've worked with the homeless over the years. I've been on the streets with them. I've taken food bags. I've talked to them. I've cried with them. I've prayed with them. It's very interesting, whether it be in Seattle or in Lincoln City or in Coos Bay or somewhere else in the country where my wife and I have traveled. They are someone's brother, sister, father, husband. They are people, a human, that are desperately in need of conversation, sometimes touch, sometimes a warm welcome to a hand. You can walk up to them and say, "My name is Rich, and what's your name?" And they sort of look at you quizzically because they're not sure what you want. And I simply say, "I'd like to know your name so I know who I'm talking to." So all of a sudden, it's Rich talking to Wes, or Rich talking to Susan. It makes a difference in how they respond to you. They don't sleep with a roof over their heads. Matter of fact, some of them here in Lincoln City are underneath shrubs and trees, and others of them are underneath tents behind sand dunes. They become numb from the cold. When the temperature drops, hypothermia sets in. And as one of our convening board members that met with us on May 4th, by the way, we had an invitation out to 37 people, and 25 showed up. And they became the body that established the shelter. But one of the doctors there, Dr. Dean Orton with Samaritan, said that when they drink and have alcohol in their systems, they become even more vulnerable to hypothermia. So one of the criteria for establishing the emergency warming shelter is the weather coupled with rain and coupled with wind. Many have addictions. Many wander aimlessly. Their teeth are usually in very poor shape and rattle when it gets cold. Their health is not good. My wife and I saw a homeless guy one time on the curb rubbing his feet. We said, "What's wrong?" He says, "I have diabetes and my feet are hurting." Well, we can get you over to the Gospel Mission. They have a doctor. He says, "I don't want to go there." He says, "But I don't have any medicine either." And it was sort of lost. He didn't really want to respond at that particular time. Their health is usually not good and they're hungry. But more than anything, they need our help. So on May 6th, we filed officially with the state of Oregon to become the Lincoln City Warming Shelter, Inc., and established a nonprofit corporation to help take care of the homeless, predominantly during the time periods of mid-November to late November to late March. The weather determinations would be made with a call to NOAA to determine what the temperatures are for the following week. The shelter would then go into business. But we can't do this alone. We now have, regretfully, 5 board members that are functioning. The bylaws were approved this afternoon, and they're being submitted to the IRS for its processing. But we need the city involved, not just city council endorsement or the city manager's cheerleading on the side, which I've appreciated. But we need people from the city to be involved, not only as volunteers, but as board members. When this goes into operation, there's a shift from like 6 o'clock in the night until 7 in the morning. We have an intake process. We have people that are there to feed them, and there are people that stay there during the night to make sure everything is quiet. We visited with the police chief. We visited with those that have been on the late shift to make sure that things are quiet and that the homeless are being able to get their rest that they need. Our operations, as I've indicated, are what they are, and I've given you a little brochure. This is sort of the truncated way of saying, here we are, this is who we are, this is where we're going. We desperately need, and I don't mean that negatively, We need funding. We've got grants into this, requests into the city council. We got another grant that's being processed right now. Community Days gave us $500, and a motorcycle group gave us $500 here a few months ago. So we can start to function as a citywide, and that's the bottom line, in bold print, underlined, citywide warming shelter for the homeless. We have a problem here in Lincoln City. We have homeless. And people want to walk by and ignore them, but they are for real. An interesting book, on the back of this is a quote, and it talks about a book called Under the Overpass, and the author Mike, and then it refers to his friend Sam. These two college students took off for 5 months from their college several years ago and decided to find out what it was like to be on the street with the homeless. They left their middle-class families. They donned a T-shirt, pair of pants, a guitar in a case, bought a $3 sleeping bag and a $4 backpack, and took off. They went to San Diego, Phoenix, Washington, D.C., San Francisco, and Portland. And they journaled the whole time, and they wrote their story in a book called Under the Overpass. It is shocking, terrifying, humorous, and sad, and yet very uplifting. And I just finished reading it this past weekend for the second time, and I realized I couldn't sleep the other night because we have a homeless problem, and I would like to find a way to reach to the homeless and make sure that they're warm when it's freezing. So tonight, Mr. Mayor, I present to you the Lincoln City Warming Shelter, Inc. We are a citywide 501c3 nonprofit corporation seeking the city's involvement. Questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Sir?
Since the warming shelter that's now located at the Congregational Church is in the north end of the community, I heard that there was some talk prior about maybe forming one in the south end so that those who were closer to one or the other would be able to get there easier. Is that still in the offing?
That is, Mr. Sprague, it's actually we have on our strategic plan, which will be under review now, the issue of finding a south location and or a single location to which would be larger, to which we would bring them. There's also the issue of transportation has been raised, of how to get them from these different locations to the church. The Congregational Church has stepped up and said, we will provide the facility, and that's it. They are not able to do anything more, which we appreciate what they have done over the past couple of years trying to make this thing work. It's got to be a citywide commitment. But they can only handle about 15, maybe pushing it to 20. They've had 13 there in the past. The issue is that we have more than 60 homeless that we can figure at this time in Lincoln City, and we haven't made the count.
Rich, if I could interrupt, is it a capacity of the building or capacity to staff?
The capacity of the area that they would use for the homeless to sleep.
So it's a space issue?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to speak for my wife now. I know that we'd be more than happy to, volunteer our property down at the south end.
Super. I'll be talking to you then about that, sir. There's so much that needs to be pulled together, and I'm only one person, and I can't do it all. I was asked to form the organization and get it established as a state entity, nonprofit corporation, and to start making contacts. I'll be honest with you, I've walked into people's offices and said, I'd like to talk with you, Susan. And I've been blessed by having people's calendars clear so that they could spend 30 minutes with me. And that's what happened when we pulled that meeting together on May 4th. It was a call to people to come together. And Councilman Chester, was there, and I talked with the mayor as well. We had the head of the hospital, the chief of police, city council person, county commissioner, among those that were present that day, along with 5 pastors and a whole lot of other people that made up the 27. And, there was a lot of interest. There's a lot of hesitation because there's commitment, but it's like my wife and I say, I'm retired, but I'm volunteering. It seems like I'm going to work again. And last month in April, I took her on an anniversary trip. It was a vacation from my retirement. But, it's not just me that can do it. It's all of us that have to pitch in and make this happen. And your offer for the South End would be great. Now, that only complicates the issue because we desperately need an operational manager. That's somebody that's not on the board, but that's someone who would be willing to make the call to NOAA, make sure that things are in place, that the volunteers are trained, and we're doing this all with volunteers. That's how Newport, by the way, does it, and so we're sort of copying them a little bit. Any other questions?
Sir?
The warming center, would that have hours?
The emergency warming shelter would have hours, Mr. Ward. It would be roughly 6 p.m. at night to 7 a.m. in the morning. We would have an intake of those that are coming to it. They would be given a dinner. They would be fed at night, a bed pad, a blanket. The concept that we've heard from the previous people is that they like the blankets to go with the homeless that next day, so they have something to keep them warm. There's some talk about a breakfast that hasn't been really on the agenda, but they would have a packed lunch given to them as they depart.
But if it's cold out, can they stay in?
You know, that's one of the good questions that we had. We understand last year that when they got cold, they were given, and we can get them from like the Dollar Tree, the warmers that you put in your pocket, your hams wrapped around them. So that's a constant question. We are an emergency warming shelter, and that's got to be distinctively different from a shelter. We're not a gospel mission or a shelter that operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So there's that little borderline there. But if it was freezing and snowing, and we'd have to make some reasonable accommodations. Look into it at least.
Any further questions? Thank you, Rich.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Councilman, and we look forward to your involvement and the city's involvement in your new Lincoln City warming shelter.
We'll be there. Thank you. We are at public hearings or public comment. Being none, hearing none. Ordinances, none. Resolutions, none. Special order of business, none. City manager and city attorney reports.
Mr. Mayor, I just have one reminder that we do have a budget committee meeting Wednesday at 6 o'clock. It is to talk about the city budget. The urban renewal will only have one more meeting, which will be next week. And so we also then have a budget committee meeting at 5 o'clock on Monday, the 18th, and then the city budget at 6 o'clock on the Monday, the 18th. So two more meetings for the budget committee.
Okay. City attorney?
Nothing.
Nothing tonight. Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Weren't we going to check on that date for that one meeting as well?
Yeah, we've run into a little bit of a difficulty. If you recall, we had our normal council meeting was going to be held on Memorial Day, and we changed that to the 20th, in part so that Councilor Sprague could be there because of the number of councilors that would be available to vote. As it turns out, he will not be able to be there. And so the purpose of that meeting is now, the reason for having it is now changed. And so we need to look to see if there's another time when Councilor Sprague can be there, or if we just simply have one, we don't have a second
Still
meeting.
have a quorum, though.
Not for the voting on the VR North Quadrant zone. And what was the other one, Richard?
Logan.
And the Logan Park annexation. That would only leave us with 3 members.
Because you have said because of Logan. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and so that would only leave us with 3 members. So the question before you is whether or not we try to schedule another meeting, or do we simply move those items to the first meeting in June.
Are you available, Councilor Sprague, the first meeting in June?
Yes. On the 8th?
I would suggest we do that.
So are we canceling the meeting on the 13th, wasn't it?
No, the 13th would hold. This would be a cancellation of the meeting on the 20th.
20th.
So in other words, this would be our only regular city council meeting that we would have this month. All your other meetings would be involved with the budget committee.
I guess I need a motion or just a consensus to do that?
Would best be to do that by a motion, Mayor.
I just have one little wrinkle. There was a land use appeal that was scheduled for the 20th. Now, today I had communication, as did Mr. Townsend, with the attorney for the appellant, and while we didn't receive an extension of the 120-day rule, he did indicate he was inclined to grant it. So, Richard, did you get anything other than... Okay. So I don't know what to tell you at this point. We still have a land use appeal, but the attorney will be here Tuesday or Thursday, and we anticipate getting an extension of 120 days, so we don't have to have the hearing on the 20th. So
We do not have to have the hearing on the 20th, therefore we can cancel the 20th?
I think you can cancel the 20th, but if for some reason we do not get the extension that he indicated he was willing to grant, we may have to come back and ask for another meeting.
All right.
So we're looking for a motion then to...
Well, I would move that we cancel our May 20th City Council meeting.
or do we have to do two separate motions on that? And then just reconvene on our first scheduled meeting on the...
Might I request that you indicate that any items that were announced to be held on that meeting would be held at the next regular meeting on June 8th?
That's included in my motion. Thank you.
All right, I have a motion. Looking for a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved. All right. All right. Anything else, sir? Okay. Reports from standing committees? None. Additional comments from citizens present on non-agenda items? Seeing none. Announcements or comments by City Council? Seeing none, I do. I have from the B'nai Birth Camp, Change a Child's Life, Send a Child to Camp. Get your tickets today. The 5th Annual Spaghetti Dinner will be Thursday, May 14th. Camp tours start at 5, dinner at 6. Tickets are $10 and available at Beachtown Coffee, or you may call Sue at 541-996-8482 or bbcamp.org/spaghetti-dinner. It'll be held at 3509 Northeast Devils Lake Road across from the KOA. The benefit dinner for local day camp scholarships to support local Lincoln City youth. A great camp and a great cause. And
Mr. Mayor,
yes, sir.
I'd like to add to that is I'm doing the cooking.
Okay, and then you got Kip's famous
So that
spaghetti
might be
dinner.
a positive on some people's part and a negative on others.
I may be out of town.
Councilor Sprague, you are a Kiwani, correct?
I am.
Is there? I have something in my calendar about the 16th, a Kiwani dinner. Do you have that? Because I've been trying to figure out. I was supposed to be there.
16th
From
of
3 to
May.
6. Yeah, from 3 to 6 on May 16th, Armed Forces Day.
Well, Kiwanis would not have a dinner that I know of on the 16th.
Well, I'm gonna have to double check because for some
Be
reason.
the 14th.
Okay. You have something for the 14th on you?
I don't know, but that's our regular meeting.
Maybe after the
day.
meeting you help me get a hold of somebody because I've had this in my book for about a month and a half now. And got to figure out where I'm supposed to be.
Do you know John Hurley?
Yes.
Okay, John is the one to talk to with Hurley Landscape.
Right. Okay. Thank you. We got the budget meeting, this, that, and the other. That's all I have, except I do want to say I apologize for missing the budget meeting and for missing the Lincoln City Warming Shelter meeting. Some of you may know, and I just want to bring it up just for a general cautionary tale. I had to go to emergency for a stent placement in an artery. I'm one of those middle-aged guys that just ignored the chest pain and thought I could fight my way through it, but apparently when your chest hurts, there's something wrong. So I just encourage anyone, and especially with the loss of David, guys especially, not to exclude the women, but if you're having some chest pain, if you have any concerns, get to the doctor right away. It hurts for a reason, and you can be helped. So with that, we are adjourned.